What's up guys, DanPH77 here, and today I'm bringing you another build video. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a couple builds that I think are really good and what you need to do to achieve the builds that I have here. Alright, so let's get started. So the first build I'm going to be showing you is my Alpha Bridge build. So I'm going to start off by explaining what I have set up right now. So I have 4 Alpha Bridge pieces and a Tenacious and a Savage mask. Now what a Tenacious mask does is it increases damage by 10% for 10 seconds when you pop a medkit. Now through personal testing I found this to be a very effective talent in PvP. And then of course the already known Savage gloves is basically it increases your critical hit chance by 7%. Before I go into any specifics, I'm going to also show you the other configurations for this Alpha Bridge build. One of them being either Reckless or Vigorous with the Savage, and then of course I just put on a Alpha Bridge mask right here. So Reckless, Vigorous right here with the Savage. And another configuration would be a Specialized Backpack. Now a Specialized Backpack adds 200% of firearms and stamina to skill power. And basically what this does is it makes your skills more effective. Now my favorite configuration of this Alpha Bridge thus far for PvP has been the Tenacious mask with Savage gloves. And I do have 2 Tenacious masks here, one's rolled for stamina and one's rolled for farms, so I can quickly switch between the two, and if I want more toughness I can easily get more toughness, or if I want more farms I can easily do that. Now let's take a quick look at the base damage on my MP5. It's at 15.7, and just so you can kind of see the difference, if I was to put Reckless on, which increases my damage by 8%, it goes up to 16.3. Now I still think Reckless is good in PvP, but I don't use it as much anymore because I can't run in and out of my heals and keep healing myself like I could in 1.3. So you can't keep utilizing your heal over and over. It makes Reckless a little bit less appealing. So overall, I prefer to stick with the Tenacious. I found through testing that in PvP it just seems to work a lot better. What's great about Tenacious is you essentially get the Reckless damage and actually a little bit more without any of the drawbacks. Alright, so let's get right to it. This is the main configuration for this Alpha Bridge, 4 Alpha Bridge, Tenacious, and Savage. And this is a primarily built around the SMG because I have my SMG gloves, and if you wanted to use an assault rifle you could always get the Savage gloves and roll for assault rifle damage. So like I've said in previous build videos, you want to get your toughness to what suits your playstyle. Now regardless of that, you want to get your armor at max, or as close to max as possible. So you want to get your armor at 55 or more % mitigation. So to get as close to max armor as possible, you're going to have to roll armor on your vest, your backpack, your knee pads, and your holster. And then you're going to also have to use gear mods with armor to basically get up to max. Now with 1.4, something they added was performance mod slots. Now basically what that means is, like with your backpack, your holster, and your knee pads, you now have a new slot that is specific for performance mods. Now performance mods come in a lot of different things: self-heal, ally heal, pulse duration, pulse damage, increase in pulse crit chance. But I think that the best to use right now is going to be a combination of first aid self-heal and first aid ally heal. That will increase the effectiveness of your first aid. So to get the stats that you see here, I basically have 3 pieces rolled for stamina, which is my chest piece, my knee pads, and my holster. And then I have 3 pieces rolled for firearms, which is my mask, my gloves, and my backpack. For the most part, this will give you a balanced firearms and stamina build. And then you can use firearms mods to either give you more firearms or stamina mods to give you more stamina. Alright, let's take a quick look at the SMG I use. I've been using the Navy MP5N. Right now, overall, I've had people ask me before what's the best SMG to use. Technically, there isn't really a best SMG, but overall, I would say the MP5N or the MP5ST is among the best as far as tier-wise. It has really high damage, it has really good RPM, and it has good mag size. Now, comparing the MP5 to the MP7, for example, 15.7 and 14, they did decrease the MP7 by 16%, but the base damage is returning in 1.5. So the MP7 will be a good SMG again in 1.5, so if you have one, hold on to it. Alright, let's take a quick look at the talents I have on my gun. I have Deadly, Vicious, and Responsive on the MP5. And then on my secondary SMG, I have Competent, Fierce, and Unforgiven. Now this is a gear score 182, but all the talents here, all the weapon talents, have the exact same stats, whether it be a 204 or a 229 weapon score, it does not matter. They're all going to have the same stats as far as, like, for example, Competent will be weapon damage is increased by 10% for 15 seconds. It'll be that same exact thing for the 182, the 204, and the 229. Now the only thing that's different is the requirements. Now 182 is going to have significantly less farms and electronics requirements. So with this 182, I can have Competent on the top slot and Fierce, for example, and unlock those, as opposed to if this was a 229 weapon, Competent and Fierce right now would both be grayed out because they require like 3,000 electronics. Now, if you are looking into building an Alpha Bridge build, there are a total of 8 talents that I consider good. And in no specific order, that's Brutal, Deadly, Responsive, Vicious, Fierce, Competent, Unforgiven, and Adept. Alright, so let's talk about the mods that I have on my SMG. So you can do this 2 ways. Right now with my optic and my muzzle, I have them stacked more towards crit chance. So I have 7.5% crit chance on my muzzle, which is a T-Rant suppressor, and I have 6.5% critical hit chance on my optic. Now I can take the optic and I can switch it to this Pro Red Dot and get 16% critical hit damage, but then I would only have like 2.5% critical hit chance. And I can do the same with my muzzle. I can add this Loud Vent Break, which gives me 16% critical hit damage. Overall, just make sure that your critical hit chance is 28% or higher. Right now with the critical hit chance stack that I'm doing, it's at 41.5. A good optic, or at least in my opinion, is one that's going to have critical hit chance, critical hit damage, and headshot damage. Now with the magazine, with the SMG specific, you want to get one that has magazine size, critical hit chance, or critical hit damage, and then rate of fire. With the grip so far, the best ones I've found are the ones that have critical hit damage, reload speed, and accuracy. Now for the muzzle, same thing with the optic. You want to look out for a muzzle that has critical hit chance, headshot damage, and critical hit damage. So let's take a quick look at my character sheet tab before I move on and showcase my other builds I have for you. So right now my critical hit chance is at 41.5%, and when I hit a pulse that gives me an additional 12%. So I'm getting as close to 60%, which is the cap, as I possibly can. Alright, so my armor right now is at 58.3% with this Alpha Bridge build. That is relatively good, but overall make sure that you're aiming for at least 55% or more mitigation. Alright, so let's talk about the pulse skill real quick. It changed a lot from 1.3 into 1.4. If you have the Conceal Pulse, you get the same exact critical hit chance, and then the critical hit damage is only like 4% less. So it's better to use a Conceal Pulse to knock off any current pulses on you, especially if you're a solo player. Now with the first aid, I've been using the booster shot because when you pop it, it gives you a damage increase and it also gives you damage resistance. It doesn't give you as much of a heal, so your self-heal or my self-heal is only at 54 HP versus an overdose, which is at 90 HP, and you don't get an overdose unless you're using Vigorous with a booster shot. But I think overall, with the fact that you get the damage increase and the resistance, it kind of equals out. But Flashbang is also another really good skill to use, especially in 1.4, because, like I said, the triage is not a factor anymore. You don't have constant healing, and if you take down your opponent's skills and they can't heal themselves, it's very effective to have a Flashbang in your group, or even to use it if you're solo. Also with the turret, the flame turret is extremely overpowered in my opinion right now. It's very effective at basically immobilizing to a certain degree your opponent because they can't shoot their gun and they're moving slower and they're brushing fire off, and the turret takes like an entire mag to destroy, or even sometimes more than that. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And now the Seeker Mine is also very effective because it can apply bleed to the target and also does a lot of damage to your enemy. Now in 1.5 the aim assist is changing, and I know a lot of people are really hate right now how the aim assist works, especially when you combine that with shotguns, because within 30 meters you get a headlock, and it's so irritating because it takes no skill and you have people just doing that. It's annoying, and they just get a headlock on you and then they use that overpowered shotgun and it just 1-2 shots you. Now until 1.5 comes out and change those values to where hopefully they work out and they have the damage on the shotgun appropriately valued, and the aim assist isn't as overpowered as it is right now. Until that time comes, what this gas charge does is it will nullify the aim assist. You can use the gas charge, and it's going to nullify during that duration that they're under that status effect. It's going to nullify their aim assist. And if you do not want to use the gas charge modification on Seeker Mine, you also have tear gas grenades, which also do the same thing. Alright, let's talk about the ultimates real quick. In my opinion, the ultimate I like the best in 1.4 right now is going to be the Tactical Link, because it gives you a damage buff and the RPM buff, and those things are ridiculous. When you hit this thing, you can just melt people. Now, the Survivor Link is also still good, especially if you're like running a group of 4 and your opposing group pops a Tactical Link. You can pop a Survivor Link and it's definitely going to help you out. It's going to help you survive. But right now, the Tactical Link, if you have a good player, you can still shred through a Survivor Link, and it does help, but only to a certain degree. You get 50% damage resistance. And then we got the Recovery Link, which, in my opinion, not a lot of people use it in 1.3, but in 1.4, it's a lot better. It's really good because it really helps you as far as picking up your teammates if you can't physically go and hold F and pick them up. It's very good as far as, you know, picking up your guys and keeping them in the fight. Alright, real quick, I want to go over all the talents that you have available to you. Right now, the talents that I use are Critical Save, which basically if you pop a medkit in the last segment of health, you're going to get 40% damage resistance. Combat Medic, this is really good if you're running in a group. If you're running solo, you don't need Combat Medic, but if you are running in a group, because you don't get those constant heals like you did in 1.3, it's very effective to keep you in your group. The other talent I use is Precision. If you headshot an enemy, it pulses them for 10 seconds, and this will stack with other pulses. And I also use On the Move. So if you kill a hostile, whether it be a AI or even an agent, you get a 30% reduction in incoming damage for 10 seconds. Now, the other talents that are good are Adrenaline. Like I said, between these 4, though, it's not going to be as effective. But if you are running solo, you can use Adrenaline over Combat Medic, and that will basically, if you, when you're not at full health, if you pop a medkit, it'll give you a slightly better medkit over heal. Triage is not as effective as it once was in 1.3. It's still good if you do it right with a group, but overall, I wouldn't suggest using it. If you are using a Predator build, it's good to use the Shrapnel talent because it can apply bleed to everyone else in that squad that you're attacking. Strike Back is also a good talent because it will reduce active skill cooldowns by 20% when you're at low health. Tactical Advance is also good because if you do a cover-to-cover move, you increase your weapon damage by 2% per meter covered for 10 seconds. If you're running a Flame Turret, or if you are even using a Firecrest gear set, it's good to run Wildfire. It's pretty much the exact same thing as Shrapnel, except it's the burn effect. And lastly is the One Is None talent, which I don't use as much anymore, but if you headshot a hostile, you get a 50% chance in not consuming the bullet, and this just basically helps out with DPS and giving you more bullets if you're headshotting your enemy. Alright, so real quick before I showcase the other builds I have and go into detail, like I was saying before, Banshee, Alpha Bridge, and Predator are my top 3 picks for 1.4 as far as PvP and just all-around best gear sets, and as far as these are the tier 1 gear sets of 1.4 with no doubt. So let's take a quick look at the bonuses with Banshee. Set bonus 2, 20% looted DZ funds. The set bonus 3, you get a 10% damage increase to targets out of cover. That's very nice because targets are always out of cover. So the set bonus 4 is while rogue, all ammo is completely refilled every 30 seconds, and damage taken from non-rogue players is reduced by 10%. And then you also got while not rogue, damage to rogue players is increased by 10%, and no dark zone XP or currency is lost on death. Alpha Bridge, you have the 100% health regen, you have 5% weapon damage, and if you're using, and everybody already knows this, but if you're using like 2 SMGs, you can gain up to 6 talents if they're all unique. And then of course you got the Predator, which is 10% reload speed, and then you got 8% increased damage on your assault rifle and your SMG. And then of course the set bonus 4 is if you hit your target 10 times, you apply the bleed effect to them. So overall, if I had to prioritize these sets, I would say Alpha Bridge is number 1, Predator's Mark is number 2, and Banshee is number 3 in my opinion. All of them are great sets though. Alright, so now I'm going to show you the other builds that I got. So this is my Banshee set, and this is only one of configuration, which is the Tenacious and the Savage. And I also have it where I can switch over to the Reckless or Vigorous with the Savage gloves. With my Predator's Mark build, I have the same configuration as the past two with the Banshee and the Alpha Bridge. I can either run a Reckless Savage, or I can even run the Tenacious Savage combination. Alright guys, so some parting notes that I want to discuss before we wrap this up is if you're new coming into this and you don't have any transfer gear, or if you have transfer gear from 1.3, the best way to gear up is you got the world tiers in 1.4, so if you're doing world tier 4 you can farm anywhere in the dark zone and get the same level of gear. It's also very effective if you're just farming in the dark zone and you get a bunch of stuff that's completely useless. Hang on to it, extract it. You can sell it for credits and you can get DZ funds, and you can put those funds towards either buying sealed caches with your credits, or you can buy sealed caches with your DZ funds. You can also buy caches with your Phoenix credits, which are down in the terminal. So there's plenty of ways to gear up. Gearing up in 1.4, getting loot drops, it's been increased a lot. It's much easier in my opinion. Overall guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and it helps you build a loadout that helps you excel in the dark zone and the PvE zone. As long as you follow all the key points I made, you should be set. If you enjoyed this video guys, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. It really helps me out. And if you want to see more content like this, remember to hit that subscribe button. This has been DanPH77, and I'll catch you guys later.